Alright, apologies for the delay. It looks like I am an idiot and actually grabbed the Mac versions of a bunch of these. So, looks like this is pretty much what we've got on our hands, which is okay. I don't really feel like I learned this game all the way. So I am happy to play another couple rounds. In the meantime, before we get too far into this, I would like to point out that I do have a poll running on Twitter. I'm going to be doing a painting stream, at least one painting stream, later in the week. I'm not exactly sure when, but I'll announce that as it gets closer and I get that sorted out. And for that, I am not sure what I'm going to be working on. Right now, it looks likely that we're going to be doing the Gloomhaven Starting 6, but there's also a few other projects that I can work on. Kind of whatever people want to see. So, just to put that out there. In the meantime, we're going to take another crack at 20-minute Metropolis and see how we do. So here we go. Ready? Absolutely not, but let's see. Okay, so this doesn't look quite the same. Okay, let's try starting with 100 extra plastic. So that was a big problem for us last time, is that we ran out really, really early on. Okay. So we want to get these going pretty much as soon as we can. And I'm being pretty cavalier with my placement of things so far. And then let's get some metal mining going. We'll do 2 metal mines because we're not going to run out of plastic for a while because of our perk. Let's see, what else do we need? We need to start digging up stone. And we need to start getting wood. We'll also build down this way, much as we did before. We'll start grabbing up this lumber as well. And then we'll need to get... Let's see, is this where we want to do this? Yeah, I think so. So we'll build that out. That puts us at relatively low wood, but it also gives us access to another dig spot. Okay. Right, and that's given us access to more lumber, more forest, which is exactly what we needed. Alright, so that's all covered, I think. And then we'll grab that as well, since we're nearby. One of the metal mines is gone. Let's see about getting some power. Do we have access to power? Sort of. How much does that cost? Landfill. Oh, crap. Yeah, we need a landfill, don't we? Needs 100 wood. So it'll be a good couple minutes before we can get that. Get power going. Oh my, you know what? I need to pause this just for a second. Because I think I just opened depressurizer by accident. Hang on. Okay, no, I'm going crazy. That's fine. Alright. Roads. Transport. Okay, we're poised for power. And let's check our waste. Is that doing okay? Oh, wow, it's really not, actually. Everything's fed. There's plenty of work. No energy, and waste is, yeah, it's slowly draining out of those apartments. Okay, so I think that's okay. That'll be alright. Let's get some power generation happening. A lot more wood for that. Oh, my frame rate just tanked for a second. Sorry about that, guys. Plop down 3 of the advanced ones. And now we just need a lot more stone. But now we're getting power, so we don't have to worry too much about that. So let's make sure we've got these beacons in place. In the right spots, of course. Alright, so that gets us power clear down here. Let's see, where else can we put this that'll be useful? We'll have it over here. I feel like there's, at some point, kind of an exponential gain that happens. I'm not really sure how to get myself there. So like right now we're producing a lot of work from these high-rises. But we don't really have anywhere to use it because I'm not fast enough at building all this crap. Let's see, we want to start getting headed for those buildings off in the distance. Level 2 stone digs, and then we need to run some power beacons out there. Energy transmitters there, and there should work, I guess. One more metals. I need more metals. Send help. Once at least one of these ones gets finished, then I can start getting metal going. Let's see, I am running low on power, so let's pop down another one of those. There doesn't really seem to be a way of getting more wood at any given time coming in. So like there doesn't seem to be an upgrade to the lumber camps. It's just like however many you have is... Ah, crud. That costs metal, alright. Okay. Alright, so we can get in here now. Stop. Okay. And we want a metal stig level 2. We can power that. No, we can't power that. Oh, no. Can I get... Oh, that just gives me back plastics. Can I get metal out of this? Can't destroy a dig site. Oh, no. I think I just really screwed myself just there. No, wait, maybe not. Maybe not. Does this have power? Oh, it does have power. Sweet. Doesn't have enough work in it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think we're okay. Oh, that's... It's literally just wood that I'm missing, isn't it? So I have crap loads of stone. So I can just have like a large number of these, and that'll basically make up for the fact that I don't have any of the big ones, right? Yeah, so that still works, right? Looks like it does. Oof, kind of got distracted from these. Let's see, does this have power? No, it doesn't have power, so it's not producing anything. Put that there, and that there, and now it has power, and now it can actually start doing stuff. Let's extend this out further. Oh, I need to run the road out further first. Oh boy. Oh boy, things happening. And then level 2 stone digs all the way along here. So actually having all of that stone was really helpful. So let's keep having it. We also need to build a trail around this way. And we'll have stone digs all along here. We need power for all of this as well, which I think that's in range, right? No, it is not. It is very not in range. It is now, and now these can all get power, and now everything will be fine. Let's see, what costs plastics? Does this cost plastic? It does, okay. Ooh. It's a lot of stone. Grab up some more wood there. This trail can come along here and pick up more stone that way. Let's see, we need to make sure we've got the beacons out in the right places. Oh, I should build these first. That will allow me to place the aforementioned beacons where they need to go. What? Why not? It is absolutely a structure. Come on. Let's try that again. How much time we got left? 7 minutes. Okay. I can do this in 7 minutes, right? Pro tip, I absolutely cannot do this in 7 minutes. That's fine though. What do we want to build here? This is going to need to be plastics. more of that. We can build more of these now. And I forgot to actually start this stuff going. So that sort of sucks a little bit. I did a dumb. I'll power those. This is powered, so let's bring more power down over here, and then we can start mining just kind of everything. Let's put some road down this way so we can get at that more easily. And then we'll do the same thing here. Those are all powered, that's good. This one's just about depleted. We might want to build more power stations, actually. Okay, that's just about run me out of wood again. Oh boy. I do like that there's circularity to the resources. None of them like really lock you out if you run out of them. You can still do something about it. Let's see. Are these powered? I can't tell. They're not powered, but I'm not sure why. Let's see. We need more beacons. Let's see. Where's Oh, it's not quite within range. Crap. That'll work. Alright. It's more than a little bit janky, but that's okay, I'll live. More stone! Needs power. Okay. Alright, so there's that. How are we doing on our work production? Do we have enough? Food is doing okay, work is fine. Energy is fine, waste. Surprisingly not bad. Definitely need to get another landfill though. Maybe multiple. Don't forget to raise taxes. Oh man, yeah. Not that kind of game. It's not that kind of game. I don't understand why so much is building up out here. Okay. That's fine. It's managed. It'll be okay. I don't really know why I'm placing so many landfills, but hopefully it's not just a complete waste. Oh my gosh, where's this happening? Wow, okay. Well, that means that we can get up more wood, and that means that we can also probably build some more of these giant things. Nope. Already out of wood again. Okay. Let's see, so that means that we're going to need to go for this pretty much now. Let's see, where's the smallest, where's the thinnest portion of this? Let's make some easier power generation, I suppose. Let's see, 2 minutes left. Parks. I can and build more big parks. Oh, come on. Come on. 4, 3, 2, 1. Magnificent park. Okay. So it's important to get those as quickly as possible because that is the points source. Everything else is secondary, although more appealing. As it usually is with this sort of thing. Stone take level 2 planes. Okay, I don't care. Let's see where. Okay, we're almost out of time. This is 20-Minute Metropolis, which is a game where you play SimCity but really, really, really fast. So I have 43, 2, 1, 40 seconds left. Let's see, there's plenty of work over there. What's the matter with this thing? Why is that not working? Oh no, it's working. Just slow. Okay. There's no way I'm making it to the wood that I needed, so in the last couple seconds we have left, let's just mash these. And in a second I will explain what the heck we're seeing here, but I need to build these as quickly as I can. Okay, I'm out of plastics, which means that I can't build anything. Okay. Right. So explaining what the heck that all just was. Basically, this is just like SimCity on crack. It's you play really, really fast. It's 20 minutes start to finish in real time. It has a speed up, slow down function, but that affects the real time counter. So you actually can't increase the number of actions by speeding up the game. It doesn't actually make it go any slower relative to real time. What that means is that you have to just do everything in a really short period of time. It's like there's a lot of implicit stuff. So you can see in this like gameplay demo how there's those yellow and green dots jumping around. That's resources like work and food traveling across your network. There's also power and waste, which you have to manage. Most buildings don't require power, but there's a couple that do. So like there's high rises, which produce way more work than regular apartment buildings, but require power. There's like level 2 resource buildings, a pair of them. They require power, and that's basically it. But because they're so much more efficient, you generally want to get going on that. Everything requires work, and work is produced by food. Which comes from farms, and then, yeah. So a big part of this, I feel like I'm not quite getting the strategy, because everything shown in the gameplay demos and screenshots that I've seen doesn't look anything like the strategies that have seemed to work so far. Just like real life, yeah. Yeah, so it's a weird little game, honestly. It's very, very strange, but I'm liking it so far. This is my second run. My first score was like 80, I think, or 80,000, and this time was 220,000. These are the tutorials. I'm not exactly sure why it still shows them all on the main menu, but let's take another crack at this and see what we can do. So you can see we've got farms, a couple of farms around. I think it's the same map every time. It certainly looks like it. And then you've got these ancient skyscraper ruins, because this is post-apocalyptic. That's where you get metal and plastic. Over here you've got water, which is where you put turbines for power. There's all these mountains and forests, which is, of course, stone and wood. And then we also have these lovely perks. I've already tried roads are free and start with 100 extra plastic. That extra plastic was a massive bonus because it let me produce many more parks much quicker, no waste production honestly doesn't seem that great because landfills are pretty cheap. Although I will of course try that eventually. So let's start with logging sites are twice as fast. So now we need to make some trails. Awesome, thank you. I appreciate that. I very much appreciate that you are trying to help me succeed. And have a lovely evening. Okay, so we gotta get some stone production going in order to keep making roads. We actually also need houses because I kind of forgot to do that. Alright. I probably want to actually delete... no, I don't actually, because this is going to run out real quick. Let's see. Plastics, here and here. Metals. Yeah, metals over there, and then we'll do a powered metals dig somewhere else. Now we can keep building our roads. Yeah, plastics just runs out so quickly. We can now put roads along here, but we have to have logging camps, which I have not actually constructed yet. And we've successfully cut through a bunch of the mountains, so that's good. Coming up here will let us have access to those. We'll start burning this stuff out. Let's see, we want wood here, stone here and here, as well as there and there, and that'll get us started there. My commentary doesn't make a whole ton of sense, but that's okay. Bring a road along that section so that we can start mining all of that out. But we probably want to start getting power first so that we can have powered buildings. And in fact, I'm going to delete this so that I can put a road down this way to this farm. Let's see, how are we doing on food? Plenty of food. Yeah, actually pretty good on food. Work is being produced neatly, which is good. Got plenty of work going everywhere that it needs to be. No energy, lots of waste, so let's build us a landfill. And then another one over here, and another one up here, and that should handle everything that we have right now, I think. Those are super expensive, actually. Those will drain out slowly, and eventually we won't have to worry about that anymore, but for right now we still do. What do we need for this wood? Okay. So that's just a matter of wait time. Let's get all of these going. Need more metal. Oh crap. Okay, where can we get metal easily? There's these three towers over here. That's probably where we're going to want to get it from. And we will also want to generate some power down here as soon as we can. Oh no. Wait a second. Is metal... Oh no. I think I screwed up, you guys. I can recycle some tiles for plastics, but I don't think I can get metal out of any of them. Oh no. It doesn't generate metal. crap. I think I just lost this attempt. Yeah, that's it. I'm pretty sure I just lost. Okay. Yeah, let's give that a miss. Okay. that was a bit of a silly run. So let's see. Do we want to? I really do not understand the strategy that you're supposed to use. Because, like, my cities don't end up looking anything like... I mean, anything like anything, really. This is showing, like, high-rises and power beacons and apartments stretching on as far as the eye can see, and then, like, no resource buildings. Mine always just... Like, I don't know, I always find that I have more work than I need. I wonder if these are just for aesthetics, or if they're actually supposed to give you a hint. Alright, you know what? It's probably too close to the end of the stream for another proper run at this. I don't want to end early, but I also don't think I have time to do this again tonight. So I think I gotta leave it there. I will just briefly mention again, before I go, that on Twitter there is a poll running for what I should do for my mini painting streams later in the week. And again, I'll mention that OpenRCT2 is hopefully on the docket, so we can do some roller coaster building and get some multiplayer going on that. So either way, go ahead and answer the poll. Tell me what you think I should work on, what you want to see, and I will see you all tomorrow.